our national anthem, military members should stand at attention. Civilian guests are invited to place their right hand over their heart. At this time, we request all electronic devices be silenced for the duration of the ceremony. Thank you. Our ceremony will begin momentarily. Good afternoon. I am Captain Chance Pritchard, your narrator for today's ceremony. Today we welcome you to a special ceremony marking the promotion of Major Isaac Cavazos. The presiding official for today's ceremony is Lieutenant Colonel Michael Larson, the 3rd Wing Inspector General. At this time, we would like to take a moment to recognize our distinguished guests in attendance today. Major Isaac Cavazos' wife Jan and sons Isaac and Israel, and Lieutenant Colonel Boyarsky, 962 Airborne Air Control Squadron Commander. Lastly, a special welcome to all senior officers and civilians, commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, members of Team J-Bear, and close friends, for being here to share in this special occasion with Major Cavazos and his family. At this time, I ask that you please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of the national anthem. Please be seated. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Michael Larson.
Good afternoon, friends. Thank you for coming out and helping us celebrate Isaac's promotion to Lieutenant Colonel. We met, about 2008 time frame? We served together at the 960th in Tinker for about 5 years or so. From the very beginning, I remember Isaac was always one of those officers that everybody gravitated towards. Always a positive attitude, always led by example, always a subject matter expert in absolutely everything that he does. But I think one of the most important things that always stood out to me is the humility that you have when you go about doing things. So when he asked me today to say a few words, of course I can't say no to you, but when he sent me his records, I wasn't prepared to read records that read like a 4-star general. I mean, there's so much in your records for you and your family to be proud of, but I was not aware of a lot of it, and I think that's due to your humility. So when I started reading through them, it kind of reminded me of a quote from a leadership author named Orrin Woodward. Vision and persistence will take you to the top of the leadership mountain. but only humility will keep you there. Now, Isaac's about ready to pin on Lieutenant Colonel, so he's clearly atop that mountain, but the entire journey has been done so with humility, which is a feat in itself. But because of that humble nature that you have, I don't think that you've shared a lot of your accomplishments with people in general. So I'm going to take a few minutes to do just that. And granted, these are just a few high points. So Isaac graduated OTS in the summer of 2007, and then he completed ABM training at Tyndall Air Force Base, and then he was assigned to Tinker, where after Air Weapons Officer training, he was assigned to the 960th AACS from 2008 to 2013. During this time frame, he held titles such as Assistant OIC of Flight Requirements, Deputy Chief of Current Ops, and also Instructor ECO. He supported multiple Virtual Flag, Red Flag, and Iron Falcon exercises, while also supporting G8, G20 Summit, keeping the President of the United States and other world leaders safe. He also deployed 2 separate times in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation New Dawn, flying 64 missions, supporting 512 coalition aircraft and 12 separate enemy engagements, with a combined total of 824 combat hours. Now, during this time frame, he also earned a number 1 of 9 deployed ECO and top 5% squadron CDO stratifications, 2 achievement medals, 2 combat air medals, and an Air Force Commendation Medal. After this, he attended NATO ECO training, where he was the distinguished graduate. He then was assigned to the AWACS NATO component at Gallengirchen, Germany from 2013 to 2016. Here he was the Assistant Flight Commander, and E3A FTU Instructor and Evaluator ECO. He led a team of over 30 personnel in a 16-nation flying squadron, while also monitoring Russian aggression against Ukraine. He authored the NATO AWACS electronic warfare procedures, and also flew in support of the Afghan presidential elections, keeping over 1,800 voting locations safe. During this time frame, he earned 3 number 1 ECO certifications, was a Squadron CGO of the Quarter, earned Volunteer Heart of the Force Award, was the Nomad Annual Award winner, and he also earned a Joint Service Commendation Medal. After this highly successful tour, he found himself back at Tinker, where he was at the 966 and the 552 Ops Group from 2016 to 2021. Here he was the Chief of Program Flying Training, Assistant Director of Operations, and the Chief of Stand Eval, as well as an Evaluator ECO and ABM. As the ECO subject matter expert for the E3G Initial Cadre course, he authored the ECO syllabus, which paved the way for the ABM concept, which I know now who's at fault for the ABM course. Thanks a lot, Isaac. He also led 140 airmen and accomplished over 1,400 syllabus events. Then he was hand-selected for a tough 9-month deployment to Combined Joint Task Force Kuwait, where as the Director of Air and Missile Defense, he authored 2 counter unmanned aerial system strategy papers, which shaped combined forces strategy to defeat ISIS in Syria and Iraq. And this earned him his 2nd Joint Service Commendation Medal. He also led the first ever Operation Inherent Resolve counter UAS fires process and training certification, which defeated a live threat and was lauded by the J3. During this time frame, he was awarded Outstanding Performer for Austere Challenge, earned number 1 certifications for an ECO 4 times, was the number 1 of 15 FGOs, stratification by the Joint Task Force Director twice. On 8 separate occasions, was stratified in the top 10% of his peers by group and wing leadership. Was the ECO and FGO of the Quarter Awards, earned a Meritorious Service Medal, and was the Squadron Saigon Leadership, won the Squadron Saigon Leadership Award for 2020. And after this highly successful tour, he found himself here at JBER last summer, where since then he's served as the OGV E3 Division Chief and Evaluator ECO, and is soon to be his Deputy Commander for the 962. And I personally can't think of somebody more qualified for that position. Your accomplishments are second to none, brother. But more importantly, the humility that you've shown while doing that is an example for all of us to follow. So keeping in that that theme, I'm also want to tell you how humbled I am to be up here, to be asked to share a few words on your behalf. So thank you for that, and congratulations on this promotion. Hub's yours.
The President of the United States, acting upon the recommendation of the Secretary of the Air Force, has placed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, integrity, and abilities of Major Isaac G. Cavazos. In view of these special qualities and his demonstrated potential to serve in a higher grade, Major Cavazos is promoted to the grade of Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force, effective 1 May 2022, by the order of the Secretary of the Air Force.
Sir, please. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Isaac G. Cavazos,
Having been appointed a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force,
having been appointed a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend the Constitution of the United States
to support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
and bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
And I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office upon which I'm about to enter.
of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, we would like to invite Isaac and Israel Cavazos to come forward to pin on their father's new rank.
Yes, sir. And hold it. Here, I'll take that. You take that top one. Okay. Give you a hug. We don't want to embarrass you, but you're not there yet. So. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Isaac Cavazos.
All right. Well, thank you. Man, this is a true honor. I didn't expect this many people to come out. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I sent you guys an invite. You notice I didn't do everyone, because to me, I said the people that I've sweated with, that I have fought with, that have instructed me, that we've been through, you know, all the kimchi together throughout this wonderful career, and it really has been wonderful. That's not a sarcastic remark. Those are the people, because you know me. You knew me back when I was a captain. You knew me back when I was second lieutenant, still lost when LT stood for lieutenant, right there, walking around the 960th trying to find something to do. And that means the world to me. And the guys at OGB, they know me too. So those are nice words, but you know, the true me here. But you know, I didn't get to this place on my own, and it's not because of what I did. It truly is because of all the advice, the inputs, and everything that everybody has shared with me my entire career. So I hope that I can impart that to you and share with you just a little bit about myself, like actually where I came from. Maybe it can be an inspiration, I hope, and if not, we'll see what we can do with that. But you know, I'm from Texas. Anybody knows me knows I love Texas. San Antonio, born in Harlingen, and grew up kind of all over the place. But when I was in San Antonio, I always wanted to be a soldier. And you young kids don't remember this, but Desert Storm hit, and they had these baseball cards you can buy at 7-Eleven, and you can get a stick of gum with them. And they had all the trucks and all the airplanes, and I would go, Mom, can we just get it? Can we get it? And I had this whole collection. And in my mind, I was going to be in there. And you know, you do that, and in San Antonio, they have the Alamo. And every kid goes to the Alamo once a year as part of your field trip. And you got Davy Crockett, and you got, you know, Jim Bowie, and you got William Travis, and all these 183 Texans fought to the death. And here's where they died. And I was like, man, I can be a soldier. Maybe I don't have to die at that place. But, you know, this is just building up. And then eventually came through, and they would have parades. And that's when I saw my first airman. I saw these airmen walking around with M1 Garands, and I'm like, I want the shoes, I want the pants, and I want that blue shirt. And they're just going through San Antonio. But I grew up in a really bad part of town, really poor. You know, it's weird. I always tell people, I learned how to count because our neighborhood was so bad you'd hear gunshots at night. And my mom would be looking at me and her eyes would be huge. And she'd say, don't get out of bed, mijo. Don't get out of bed. Crawl out of bed because the bullets are going to come through the windows. And we would sit there and we'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're just counting bullets. And eventually you would go, 8 was the lowest number we ever heard. And, you know, what chance does a kid like that really have? The police never came down your street. And so you learned really quick about drugs. You learned really quick about a lot of the shady things in life you don't want to learn. But this kid has this vision and this dream, and he looks at these cards and he's like, I want to be that. I want to be one of those guys. And I would go and I'd talk to some of my family members, and they would tell me, well, if you want to get ahead in life, join the military. And all my family has done Army. And they're like, you'll get fed 3 times a day. You're going to get clothes to wear. You're going to have a purpose. You're going to be in the best shape of your life. I was like, I want to do that. And, you know, God sends people down your life to help you out. One of the guys he sent, one of 3 individuals that I don't even think I'd be alive if it wasn't for these guys, but one of the guys named Frankie Lopez. And Frankie was an attorney. He raised himself up, went to school in San Antonio, became an attorney. And one day, I guess he looked at me. I don't know what I was doing. I'm playing outside in my yard. And he's like, I'm going to pay for that kid to go to private school. I didn't even know it. As a matter of fact, guys, I didn't realize this until I was in my 20s. I didn't know why I was going to private school. All I knew is everybody went off to, you know, the west side, and you're learning about needles, and you're learning about coke, and you're learning about everything else. And I got to go get an education, which was huge. And Frankie did that for me. And unfortunately, Frankie passed away before I could ever thank him. I don't know if his family's there, but he means the world to me. Everything that Frankie did, I have never, ever forgotten. And it's something that, you know, in my heart and mind, I said, God didn't just give me this position or anything else to enjoy my life. I got to pay it back to whoever is out there, wherever there is a need. Let that be part of my story, that I helped somebody. The other guy was this really cool dude named Mr. Medrano. And Mr. Medrano was a Marine. He was a sailor. He was an Army guy, and he retired as an Air Force Tech Sergeant. He did them all. And I remember he looked at me, he's like, young man, he's like, what do you want? And I said, man, I want one of those, you know, Army caps. He's like, okay. And then, you know, I'm just a kid, all right? I'm only 8 years old. And it comes back today, and next time in church, and funny about this, he's like, here you go. This is a Marine full bird colonel, and it had the rank all sewn in it. And I was like, wow, how'd you get that? He's like, I went down to Fort Sam and I saw a guy and he went to go eat and he took off his cover. I just walked by, took it, put it on. He's like, now it's yours, son. Questionable, whatever, but you know, that colonel somehow, he had an influence in my life too, so I think it all worked out, whatever. But, you know, it was funny how that worked out. But I remember he did that, and then he gave me his Tech Sergeant stripes, which I still have. He's like, I'll see you in the blue one day. He's like, do that. And that's kind of tough because, like I said, all my family's Army. Nobody has ever done anything else. And I love our history because we're Mexican Americans who came over here. We still speak Spanish, and we love this country. And everybody was like, we have to do what we have to do because our nation's in trouble. And every member has served in a conflict since then. Since World War II, since Korea, Vietnam, my uncle Fernando, 53 combat jumps in Desert Storm. And I guess I finally picked up the flag for this most recent one. What I've done doesn't compare at all to what they have done. You know, my uncle was in Korea with 55 tank missions. All he had was rubber boots. And as he said, I chewed my food, never could eat it because it was so cold. But my Uncle Leo, you know, that was a really true great veteran. Couldn't do without him. But then, you know how everything goes, and you're about to become an officer. You're looking, you're talking to that recruiter. He's promising you the world. None of it's gonna come true. Sorry. And I was about to go into the Army, and I remember the guy said, "Hey, look, man, I'm gonna make you an officer in 3 months. Then you're gonna do 2 months of training, and then you're gonna be a military police guy." And I was like, "Ooh, awesome! I'm gonna have that band." He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "What am I gonna be doing?" He's like, "Right now, we're doing convoys in this place called Fallujah, really quiet little Iraqi town. You know, just escort people back and forth. Nothing big going on there." And I was like, "Okay." And my Uncle Ray said, "What are you doing, mijo?" And I said, well, Theo, this happened, you know." And he's like, stay right where you are. I'm gonna be right over there." And he came over and he's like, "I'm an Army guy." He's like, "I love the Army, but don't do it." He's like, "Go Air Force." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "You got an education. Frankie Lopez paid for it." He's like, "Use it. Go Air Force." And so that was it. I walked over and they said, "Do you want to fly?" And I said, "Yeah." They're like, "What am I gonna be doing?" They're like, "This ABM thing, and you fly on a C-130. The guy was way off, way off. And I was like, "Okay." I said, I'll do it. I get a chance to serve. And being able to serve in the military is tricky because sometimes we get jaded and all we do is we look at the bad leadership and we're like, I've heard this phrase, AWACS leadership sucks. But I had some great leaders as well. I had some terrible ones. You know, and I'll say this right now about Dirty. One of the reasons I asked Dirty to do this is because my first deployment that I went on, the commander got fired, the DO got fired, and the chief got fired. It was a terrible deployment. Our morale has never been so low. And I'm a lieutenant wondering, this is what leadership looks like? This is what I should be doing, emulating? I mean, this guy's making huge mistakes on every single level. Sexual harassment, poor decision making, you want to name it, they did it. And here's a guy that just been on captain, and I'll walk over and say, "Dirty, what do we do?" And Dirty would be like, "Well, you don't do that." And I remember one time he said, "You know what the good thing about having really bad leadership, Cav?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You know what not to do." And I was like, "Thanks." And he was right across the hall from me, and it would be me, Katie Mayer, and Josh Hamblin. We'd be all huddled like lieutenants, and we're like, "Hey guys, what do you think we should do?" And it's like, "Well, that's Mike. Mike's not even, I think he was a shop chief or something. He wasn't even an assistant flight commander, but he had that leadership presence walking around, and he'd be like, "This is the meeting you need to do. This is how you control on scope. This is how you hold yourself accountable." He's like, "And don't worry about the leadership." He's like, "You're an officer. This is what you follow." So I followed you. I followed you the entire time. And to me, I always think about, like, you never know the impact you're making. Okay, so you're not an ADO, so you're not a flight commander, so you're not this. You're still a leader. And people will gravitate to leaders. That is the bottom line, no matter what position you are. And then the 60th got good. We got a guy named Colonel Smith. And not everything has been great. You talked about humility, and I appreciate that, but there was a time when I was as proud as a peacock, and I had nothing to be proud about. I really didn't. And that was a moment where everything came out from under me, and I almost got kicked out of the Air Force. I mean, I was close. And I walked into Colonel Smith's office, and I said, "Sir," they didn't call him Smitty at the time. We were not on that level. I said, "Sir, this is what's happened. I am sorry." And I literally walked around the 60th trying to do something. I'd ask people, "What do you want me to do? Do you want me to shred your papers?" "I'll shred your papers. I just need something," because they told me, "You're dead to me. You're nothing." My pride took a down nosedive. Smitty gave me a chance. And that was just like an airplane that's about hitting nosedive, and we went right back up. But I wouldn't be here without Smitty. And Smitty didn't just stop by giving me a chance. He mentored me every single step of the way. We would go to a barbecue at somebody's house. Smitty was there. We would just be talking, waiting for a meeting to start. Smitty would drop a little dime of knowledge on you. And for him and his wife, Tracy, I mean, literally that's a life-changing course. And they are the kindest, sweetest people ever met. I know there's people here, we got stories we could talk about him, but he was there. I had another mentor, David Cavazos, and David showed me, "Hey Isaac, you can be an officer, you can be a Christian, you can be a leader." And Cavazos was interesting because we were only the two on Tinker. But David was there. David has been my friend throughout this whole thing, and he just helped me along, helped guide me along. And I look back, I'm like, a lot of the decisions, a lot of the stuff that I do now, I do because of David, what David taught me. And without those, there's more that I could talk about. I might take too long. I don't want to take too long. Your time is precious. I appreciate you being here. But I will get into my thank yous now. And the number one thank you is Mom and Dad. I know you couldn't be here. Surgery, I'm glad you're good. I'm really glad you're good. You have been to every event in my life, and so that means the world to me. Like, I know you would have been here if you hadn't had that surgery. Same with David and Sarah. I really do have the best in-laws. My father-in-law said when we got married, he's like, I'm going to treat you like a son. I was like, yeah, sure you are. He really has. He really has. And he's been to every single promotion event. I mean, whose in-laws do that? He came to my OTS pinning on. He came to when I pinned on Major. Like all these events, he's like, we're going to go. We're going to go. And right now, we all know the current situation. It's tough. They couldn't make it. But it means more to be, your son-in-law and part of your family than that you're here at this event. It means the world to me. Thank you. If any of you guys couldn't come, I always accept gift cards and we can repair our relationship in that way, and I'll be happy. So thank you. So next one is my wife, Jane, who's my best friend. You knew me back when I had nothing. I was a construction worker and a wife beater working at Cavco with a truck and big dreams.
He was wearing a wife beater. He
Yep.
was not a wife beater.
I would have a do-rag and a wife beater, and that was it. And I somehow convinced this girl to marry me, and I said, look, I'm going to do this Air Force thing. It hadn't even been accepted. I said, I'm going to take you around the world, and I'm going to take care of you, and you're going to have plenty of money and all this other stuff. I had no idea how I was going to do that, but I'm a smooth talker, and I was like, I'll have to lie if I have to lie to get her, because she's worth it. Thanks for putting up with me. It has been hard. It has been a really hard, 15 years because of the pressures we've had from deployments and stuff. But thank you for that, and thank you for keeping me humble. You have never shied away from telling me, the truth, even if it hurts, and I appreciate that because that has helped me only grow and become a better man. But the one thing I'm not going to be humble about is these two right here. So I mean it in all the world. The best thing that ever happened in my life is when you guys were born. It really has. So freaking proud of you. I love you to death. If I could wear you as a rank, I would. If you could hang out in the office and hear me talk about you, I know my OGB guys got, oh, there he goes again. That wonderful kid he's got. I do. I really do. You really mean the world to me. And I've talked to you to everyone about you. Always remember I'm gonna love you. Always remember that. I don't need you to, fly all the way to the sky to be great so that I can continue loving you. I will always be there for you. But thank you, because if I can look at everything in life and say, what are you most proud of? What's the best thing you did? It's right there. It's right there. I appreciate the kind words. This is really nice bling, but it's right there. That's what matters so much to me. Colonel Boyarsky, thank you so much for coming, man. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all those shots that you've taken for the squadron that people don't see, but you show to me and you show me, hey man, this is what a leader's gonna do for her people. I appreciate that. My OGV shop, iron sharpens iron. And every day that we're in there, I'm learning a little bit more about every single person, a little bit more about every single job. And I learn how to become a better officer, how to become a better leader because of you guys. So thank you. I really do. My fellow flyers, that's a big one. Your instruction, your advice and your example literally are the lessons I have followed all my life. Greg, I'm so glad you came because I wanted to tell you this. I had one ride with you as an ECO, and you made me do a timeline brief, and then you gave an instruction the academic day, and then we flew. I use those exact same lessons for every single student that I taught in NATO, every single student that I taught at the 6th, and every single student now. I never forgot them. You're out of all the instructors I had, you gave me that one lesson, you blew my mind open, and I said, this is how you instruct. And so thank you so much. Every time I have to fly, Colonel Ketchy, over here, Colonel Otterback, you guys are always dropping a low knowledge there. And I appreciate it, I really do. Brian, all our days going back to NATO, flying out there, suffering in a, Reza and Norway, having to fish. It's terrible. But, I always appreciate your humility. I appreciate that you're normal. It's great to hang out with somebody like you and to learn from that. And I'm going to conclude right now. But the one last thank you, and that's to the person who's become the cornerstone of my life. That's a person that I've gone through a lot of trials. I've been through many tribulations. I've been through some dark days. This person had helped me out. 2020, I probably wouldn't be here. 2020, I probably would have joined the number of airmen who decided to end it all. But this person has always guided me through. I've experienced love from this person like I never did. And some of you who know me know where I'm going to go with this. But that's my Jesus, and that's my Jesus Christ. And I can't talk about him, because without him there is no me. So I'm really grateful about that. I said those last dark days because I don't know what anybody here is going through. My door will always be open to listen to you if ever you find yourself in that area of life. I've been there, but I know the way out. Again, I thank each and one of you for coming. Sorry I got started a little late, but we have tacos. Tacos are important. I'm Mexican. Bien importante, and we gotta have tacos. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do that. We're gonna go ahead and dismiss. I just want you guys to get up, get some food, enjoy it. And I will have to leave in a little bit because I got tasked with my first P test this morning. So I have to show up before 1400 at CSS, and I will do it in blues. I will be making my little statement. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you. I love each and every one of you. Thank you.
Let's eat.
Thanks, guys.